Can I copy your notes? I forgot for class. Yeah, just make them look different. Ready to cross-reference my notes? Yeah, everybody get their notes out. I want to see what y'all got. Okay, so let's get going. Time to look at and analyze last night's episode of The Last of Us on HBO. Get the hell out if you don't want to be spoiled. Last warning. Okay, so I'm gonna show a couple of my favorite. How do we do it last time? Did I go over the screenshots of my favorite stills first, or did we go? Was that at the end? I think that was at the end. Okay, so I want to talk about the intro, which again was new, just like episode 1. It was new. The intro was new. There was no game counterpart to what that was, like the talk show in 1960 whatever, and this scene in Jakarta, or this collection of scenes in Jakarta, was new. Hey, no chirping. I'm doing a presentation here, okay? I practiced this. I was up all night. I loved the context it provided. I loved this actor. The whole scene in Jakarta was really cool. It was really creepy when she goes in to examine the body, and it was really dark right before the title sequence. Like crazy, crazy stuff. I did notice here, these screenshots, most of the screenshots are my favorite moments of cinematography, my favorite shots composition wise. Like there were some like absolutely stunning visuals in this episode. I probably could have done 100 screenshots if I wanted, but those are mainly what my screenshots are. But also certain things that I picked up on that are like, look at the lettuce. Look at the fucking lettuce on her plate, man. Can we talk about that? What does that look like to you? Because I know what it looks like to me. Looks kind of fungal, right? Looks almost like the head of a clicker. I picked up on this the second watch, and I was like, that has to be. I mean, they put that on our fucking plate. Look at that lettuce. Look at the shape of it. Probably nothing, but I thought it was cool. I thought it was interesting. All right, I'll do a quick little zoom through of all my favorite visuals, and then I'll kind of touch on them individually later. You know what? F it. We'll do the visuals first. Okay. No, we'll do the visuals second. I don't know how to do this. I think I should write it better. Okay, let's, okay, the lettuce on her plate looked like a clicker. It looked fungal. It looked like cordyceps. She says, when he says, what do we do? When he finally understands that there's no medicine to stop this, she says, bomb this city and everyone in it. And then she says, can someone drive me home? I know it's not funny. It was a really, really heavy fucking moment, but that little switch up was, I thought that was interesting. But I also thought that it was interesting to see this character who's very medically minded. She's dedicated her life's work to studying this. She has, I literally just, the periphery of my headphones just looked like a person. I thought someone was right. I fucking, she's a very medically minded person. She's an expert in her field. She's spent her life studying this stuff, right? And so on one end, like she has kind of like a split little moment of like, she's one person and then she has to be a different person. And at the beginning, she's like analytic. She's looking at this situation. She's examining the body. She's sitting down. She's trying to like grasp what it is. And then she finally delivers the news where she's like, I've spent my life working on this. There is no medicine. This is it. We are all totally fucked. What do we do? Well, let's blow everything up with a straight face to this, like, I don't know, government security guy. And then she has this moment of like softness where she's like, I want to be with my family. We're all gonna die a horrible death. One type of horrible death. Is it the horrible death where we get infected? Is it the horrible death where a bomb drops on us? We're all gonna die a horrible death very, very soon. I want to be with my family. And it was just interesting to see her switch up. And I think that switch happened kind of when her cup started shaking. I mean, that whole scene was so good. It was like they let that shot breathe for so long. It was, I don't know, I just felt a lot during that shot. I thought she was great, by the way. Something I picked up on during that first scene, these are just like my little notes that I wrote while I was watching the show. And then I kind of went back and I detailed the notes and I did screenshots, but the door opening when they're leaving that little kind of area, that little room that Ellie slept in and the show opens up on, the door sounds like a clicker. And I know that doors make creaky clicker-like sounds in general, so this might be a reach. But I encourage you to rewatch it and actually really listen to like that specific door open, because it really sounded like a clicker. It really sounded like a clicker. Just a little bit quiet. But I mean, it was like the same noise. Maybe they did that on purpose, maybe not. Something I also appreciated in the dialogue, again, really good dialogue. I love the writing in this episode. It was so good. Ellie talking about the mall when Tess is talking about how she got bit. How'd you get bit? Like, what happened? Well, you know that mall outside the QZ or in the QZ or whatever? Oh, you know the one that you're not supposed to go to and is boarded up and you're literally never supposed to even go there? I love how she has like that mom moment where she's like trying to make her feel bad. Come here. My assistant wants to help. She's like, oh, you mean the one that is totally off limits and you are a dumb kid for going towards? Hey. It's okay. She lies about Riley there. She lies about Riley in this sentence. Were you in there alone? So it was just you in there alone. Yeah, she goes. Ellie says, yeah. Nah. No, you weren't. No, you fucking weren't. You were not in there alone. I played Left Behind. Cannot wait for that scene, by the way. Okay, just in general, like the biggest, most impressive thing about this episode, like the writing was amazing. The visuals were so cool, but the freaking art department, the way they decorated these sets blew my mind on so many levels. One, there were so many shots, and I screenshotted a bunch of them, that literally looked like the video game. And they did it intentionally with the composition and how everything looked, and we all appreciate that so much. But two, just trying to like wrap my brain around whether it's a set or a real practical building, doesn't matter. They're both huge structures that these brilliant artists decorate to make look like shit has grown on the outside of it for 20 years. And it is so believable when they're making their way up through the museum and the stairs are just like covered, littered with like dried up infected bodies. So cool. And like, wow, just wow. The set design was wow. Can't even understand, like my brain doesn't even know how to, those are like, that team of people did that with their hands. Artists, crazy, crazy, crazy. During the clicker fight, Joel had a nice little silent reload. I appreciated that. It was one of those things where I was watching it and he was hiding behind that little glass case and he's got I took a screenshot of it, I think. Let me see. This shot right here. He's got the flashlight right here and he's doing this like silent reload where he takes the shells, the casings rather, sorry, out of his revolver, puts them in his pocket instead of just like dumps them on the floor. I loved that. And I thought it was like technically really impressive. There was a lot of like handling of firearms in this episode and I was impressed by all of it. Joel missed as many shots as you did. Oh. So I appreciated the silent reload. I appreciated the little details with the guns in the clicker fight. Joel and Tess both had good trigger discipline. I also loved them not giving Ellie a gun. That was funny. The clickers were perfect. The clickers were perfect. I love that they left the clickers kind of in their true form from the video game. They could have very easily gone down a whole different creative freedom road where they like just didn't look like the game, but they were scary and wild. They look just like the game. Again, the makeup department, like the special effects makeup, the people who made those clickers look so damn good. Like I was blown away. I was fucking blown away by the clickers. It was crazy to see that in a scene. Mind you, I picked up a couple details about how this episode happened because I've been listening to the podcast, which is really interesting and I would recommend it, by the way. It's on Spotify. Troy Baker hosts it and Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann are his kind of co-hosts and they just talk through the episodes. Really interesting. But I learned that they talked about how the moment where where he's explaining that they can't see or they can just hear, that was a reshoot. And they didn't include that at first because they thought they had explained enough to like the non-gamers, right? How clickers work. There's the scene on the bridge where Ellie's like, is it true that there's super infected with their head split open that can hear and see like bats but can't see like humans or whatever? And then there was another little moment. I forget exactly where they were like alluding to it, but then the feedback they got was it's not clear that the clickers see what they're hearing. We need to reshoot a tiny thing where he's explaining in the moment, like they can hear you, but they can't see you. I thought that was interesting. Also, they reshot that, but how would you ever know that's done so well? I love this line. I loved this line. I loved how after the clicker fight, they're trying to check everyone to see if they're okay. Ellie, are you okay? She's like, well, I didn't shit myself. I was like, okay, same. And then they're like, walk across this building. I know it's scary or something. And she's like, that was scary. This is wood. And I was like, okay, that's a good line. Good line. Okay, so in general, this episode, it was simultaneously the best and the most heartbreaking moments of Tess and Joel's relationship. I really felt like you were able to like learn a lot more about them and their relationship and how they are as a couple and what they've been through and like who are they to each other and who is who in the relationship. And then she dies, which we all know from the game. But I really felt like, first of all, Anna Torv was so perfect for Tess. She was amazing. And I'm sad that she's gone because she was like a really good part of the series. In episode 1, when she comes home from, she needs to get revenge on the dude who ripped her off. She's like calming Joel down and then she's like winding him up. And he's just like, all right, whatever you want. She's like, I very much intend for you to hurt him. Even though I said, you wouldn't hurt him. And he's just like, he'll do whatever she wants, which I loved. And then at the end where she's like, she has that moment after the fight where she's like really upset. And she's like, why can't you just like accept that we might win? Like we have obviously like been through hell and like nothing has gone right for us, but like we might be having something go right for us. Like I need you to just believe that. And she was like so mad. And then, like I guess even in that moment, it's not super clear that she's been infected yet, but even in that moment, you're like probably watching like, why is she so upset? And it's a twofold thing. It's like she's upset because she really just needs Joel to like help himself and like learn that he's not just always gonna potentially lose. He might have a chance here. And then also she's upset because she's not gonna be there with him when he wins. Right? She's like, she's gone this far with him and she finally sees this like glimmer of like potential hope and she knows she won't be a part of it. And that's hard for her. And I liked that. That character arc was so insane and intense. The giraffe plushie under the car right after this scene. Did Sarah have that plushie in game? I forgot where that plushie was from, but I knew I had seen it before. It was a journal entry. See, I knew I had, okay, so it's a very intentional shot. It's like, is it maybe before or after the clicker fight? It might be before the click. Yeah, it's like right before they enter the museum, I think. Anyway, really cool little nod to the game. This was something I wrote down mid first watch. I was in the middle of my first watch and I was like confused because they were not running from Fedra. Which just was a choice that they made creatively. Like, they thought it made more sense in the show for them to be running from infected and clickers versus Fedra, who had very clearly established a QZ where they don't really leave it. Another switch was in game, Joel sees Ellie breathe spores, and that's how he's kind of convinced. In the show, she gets bit again, and the bite doesn't do anything, and that's how he's convinced. So the little tiny switches, again, I don't mind them at all, and I think they're fresh, and the fact that they're not clinging to every single correct bit of lore from the game is like a good thing, because it means they're getting their footing, and they've gotten their footing, and they really feel comfortable telling this story in a new way. Did you see how many grenades were on the floor and they didn't pick up a single one? What the hell, man? All this fucking loot everywhere and you're not looting. So many grenades. I was like, dude, just grab one. Ellie, you've been asking for a gun all episode. Grab a nade. Nope, they were just scooting. They were just fucking scooting, man. And then, of course, perhaps the most forbidden of kisses to ever grace my television. I was not ready for it. I don't think anyone was ready for it. I don't know how you could have watched this show and been like, oh yeah, this is gonna happen. But fuck, man. The kiss was, it was gross. It was disturbing. It was violating. It felt like I had to recoil from my couch. But so far, and I just want to put this, like, this is so far, it is like the least gruesome infection, like interaction that we've seen in the show. There have been people who have been bit. There have been people who have been torn to shreds. There have been people who have been shot in the head. There have been clickers who have been put an axe through their head. I mean, it's like everything's so brutal and gruesome. And then all of a sudden, this infection happens where she's not fighting at all. She's given up. She knows she's done. It was literally the kiss of death. Yes. I appreciated it more on my second watch. My first watch, I kind of like hit under the covers a little bit, but my second watch, I appreciated it a little bit more, just the way it all happened. I didn't say it wasn't the worst. Did I say it wasn't the worst? I kind of mean it wasn't like the most vile and like violent, maybe. It was horrible, right? But she didn't like, I don't know, there's something about how she just kind of accepted her fate and still sort of won that interaction and didn't ever become an infected because she was able to light the place on fire. The whole idea behind these little tendrils things that are in the show is something new, like it wasn't really in the game. But I liked it because I think it's again, it's just like a new take on how this thing spreads. Yeah, so these are most of the things I wrote down during my watch. I'm gonna go through some of my screenshots now. So this is the screenshot I talked about earlier. The professor with the very sus looking lettuce right here. Just, come on. Love this shot. Oh, I saw this. Okay, so a flour and grain factory on the west side of the city. Callback to the fucking pancakes that they didn't eat in episode 1. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, here's my breakdown for this scene. You have Ellie in the light, Joel and Tess in the dark. It's beautiful. There's flowers, there's growth. She's had a wonderful night's sleep. She's rested, full of energy. These two have not slept a wink, and they're just fucking on edge. She represents all that's good. They represent maybe not so much the good because of what they've gone through and what they are and what they've been through, what they've had to do. She's like the future. They're like, you know, maybe not the future. And then Tess is like, oh wait, I'm over here now. And then this line right here, you and me both, right? They're obviously arguing and she's like, I didn't ask for this. And he's like, you and me both. And they're fucking mad at each other. But I'm sorry, I screenshotted this. These words are on screen and Tess has crossed over. She has crossed over. And this episode, Tess becomes less of a hard ass with Ellie. Progressively, every single scene, she's nicer and nicer and warmer to Ellie. She's mother-like. And this is like, I think the foreshadowing moment where she's like, I'm over here now. I'm not just gonna be like in the dark behind Joel while he holds his gun and flags you. No, I'm gonna leave Joel and I'm gonna be over here because we need to believe in this. I loved that. I loved the contrast of these two shots. I also, I mean, look at the fucking set design, dude. Fucking cool. Okay, I saw this shot where he's eating the jerky. I also love that she's eating like a nice deli sandwich. This looks like it was a shot in the game. Something about, I don't even know. It was just like this crazy close up. The screenshot isn't super high res, but the lighting on his face was amazing. He just looked like Joel. This really just looked like the game. It was just a really cool shot. And it was like super tight on his face. And it was really, like, I don't know, man. It was Joel. It was like really just Joel. It wasn't even like Pedro in the shot. Really cool scene setting here when they're approaching the city and you see these fancy restaurant tables overgrown. Loved this. Really cool. This is my favorite shot of the episode. This is like screensaver wallpaper. I mean, come on. This made my jaw drop. I watched this and just the colors and like it's so powerful. I could just like stare at this image for so long. And they're looking all different directions. I just loved it, man. It's so cool. So yeah, probably favorite shot of the episode. This was also another stunning shot. Again, when you see this water, you're brought really very quickly and like viscerally back into that level in the game. You're like, okay, this is the water level. Like they did us justice. They like established these scenes for the gamers. It literally looks like a screenshot from game. I'm telling you, like, I love that so much. They didn't have to do it, but they were staying so dialed in and so true to the way the game feels. And this is it. This shot was pretty sweet. There's a lot of these like shots with Ellie and Joel this episode where they're both kind of on opposite ends of the screen across from each other. You know, this is like the episode that they are like, okay, they are the focus. There was a lot of shit that happened in episode 1. There was Sarah, Tommy, flashback, Fedra stuff. But like in this episode, it's just like constant these two. And it felt really cool because it was like, okay, it's sort of preparing the audience for like, okay, what's to come? These two, this is what's to come. Also, again, the lighting and the fucking set, so cool. Masterpiece in set design. I mean, I don't even know what I'm looking at here. How is this real? How did they make this real in real life? I don't even care that the background potentially might be CGI. Maybe it's not, but just this. I mean, the way they did this building was just stunning. I mean, and then the up close shots of the cordyceps like growing on the outside and just so cool. So freaking cool. More set art department, set design appreciation right here. Like this was just how long does that take them? Like, how do you clean that up? Imagine cleaning all that up and be like, oh, we got to reshoot. What? What? That's magic. Okay, another video game shot, literally from the game. This shot right here. I feel like I'm entering the room and I'm like, oh fuck, I have no health. I need to make a med kit. Where should I go? I feel like I'm in the game right here. Crazy how they did that. Loved how they did that. Crazy. I also loved in this scene how Joel knocks the bust. Sorry, that's what it's called. Knocks the bust into the glass. Glass goes on the floor, and then the glass is his ultimate mistake. He steps on the glass. It wasn't there before he did that. And then again, this fucking cool ass shot, and also the transition from this shot. So I think this shot is one shot, right? I think it starts wide like this, and then it zooms in on Joel, and it like kind of pans to where you can't see the left side of the screen, and then there's like silence, and then bam, he peeks out, and that's there, right? I don't think they cut. This was crazy. Crazy. This little moment here. Really cool camera work in this fight scene, by the way. During in the, like, I didn't screenshot it, but it was after one of the long pauses. I think it was after this pause when he groups up with Ellie in the middle of the room, and then he steps on the glass. I think it's right after he steps on the glass. The camera is like all of a sudden super handheld, and it feels like you're in it, which I really liked, because there's moments where like handheld shaky footage pop and make such an impact, and I feel like those moments come after a lot of long and steady shots. a lot of long and steady shots. And this episode is a lot of long and steady shots up until that one moment where it's like he steps on the glass and then it's chaos and you're in it and the camera's moving. It's like you're actually freaking out. Another good episode of that was in Knives Out, you know, the movie we watched on stream together? Good times. At the very end, they're all leaving the house and all of a sudden the camera is like removed off of a tripod. Does anyone remember this shot? It's like, it's a still shot, everyone's leaving the house, and then all of a sudden the camera just goes and it gets removed off a tripod. It's like super fucking shaky. And it has such an impact. And that's what this reminded me of with that handheld shot in the middle of the fight. Like it jars you. This was such a cool image here. I mean, literally perfect. This is like a masterclass in cinematography. She's such a badass, dude. Beautiful shot. And then this shot to end the episode where she's like alone. Joel left. The last shot of the previous episode, they were all together. They were walking off together into the darkness to find the light, right? They're walking off together is the point. In the end of this episode, she's alone. She's completely alone. And like, yes, her and Joel bonded this episode and are like, were forced to bond a little bit, but like, you know that coming up next is like some real Ellie-Joel conflict because we know how Joel handles loss and it's not good. And we know that Ellie's not exempt from being stubborn either. So it's like, this is a really exciting, it makes me excited for episode 3. Overall, amazing episode, loved it. Loved it. I think that covers most of it, but really enjoyed it. Really good depiction of the clickers, really amazing set design with all the infected stuff and the cordyceps all over the building. The living versus the non-living aspect of this city that is barely a city at this point. And then, yeah, so the teaser for episode 3, or what's to come, I guess, Bill. I'm so excited for that. Can't wait. Okay, I'll just throw my sandwich at them. Yeah, dude. Yeah, that was a great line. Thank you for sharing your notes. No problem. I hope you enjoyed the little talk, the little presentation. GG's. We'll do it again next week. Hopefully we'll have some good stuff to go over. Hopefully I didn't miss too much, but really just overall like powerful, visually powerful episode. I have a spare hand. Congrats. I know. I love that. Joel didn't throw any bricks. I know. Where are the bricks and bottles at, man? Also, he's got the freaking rifle already. Ellie's kind of a gun. Kind of a gun. Piano frog. I know that fucking frog was popping off. Can we talk about the zombie makeout? Yeah, it was something. I saw that, Schmitty. The lighter that she was using was an Uncharted lighter. I don't know how people caught that. It was so...
Happy 35
How did you even see
months.
it? Yeah, I think the Riley Left Behind sequence will probably be its own episode. I hope it will be. Maybe not a whole episode, but it could be. When Joel was reloading and the clicker was right beside him and the audio was edited to come out of just that side. Oh, dude, they did such a good job in that scene with the audio. It was so good. So like, it's funny because like leading up to next week, we think we have an idea of what's next based off of chronologically what happens in game, but I have a feeling it's going to be very different. Either it's going to be messing with flashbacks and or just new stuff. I don't know. I have a feeling like whatever we think is going to happen this next episode is going to be maybe different. I also learned on the podcast something that they wrote but didn't shoot, which I'd be so curious to see how it would have come out, is some of Tess's backstory about how her husband and son got infected. And the scene was like banging on a door, a basement door from the inside, like something was trapped in the basement door. So basically what happened was her husband and son got infected and she killed her husband but couldn't kill her son. She like couldn't do it. So she locked him in a basement. And that was supposed to kind of like maybe give more lore on Tess, but they ended up not shooting it and not including it. I just thought it was interesting that they even wrote it. So sad. Yeah, like absolutely heartbreaking. I think maybe they were just short on time, but maybe they also felt like her story was already so tragic and they didn't need that. Maybe they'll flash back to it. No, they didn't shoot it. They just wrote it. Yeah, the podcast is just called The Last of Us Podcast on HBO, or Last of Us HBO Podcast, and it's on Spotify, it's on YouTube, it's on all this stuff. So it's just audio. It's really good. It's short, but it's cool. I always love like good companion podcasts because you just get to hear stuff from the people who made it. That's also so much kid death. You're not wrong. You're absolutely right about that. That's a lot. It's a lot of yes. Mm-hmm. No spores in the show. Well, Reese, I think the idea is that spores seemed less of a useful tool to like illuminate and explain to an audience watching a TV show that that's how a disease is spread versus the tendrils and the roots and the things growing into the ground and just kind of the hive mind of the cordyceps. Visually, I think they went with that because it was just there was so much more that they could do versus just spores. But it was a an intentional decision that they made, I think. Another thing is, yes, they don't want to put masks on actors all the time. That's another fucking really true thing too. They want the actors' faces to be like easy to see. That's why they're there. It also felt so good, like the contrast between shots like this and scenes like this where it's light and just beautiful, and then scenes like this where it's just like death and darkness. Again, amazing contrast in this episode. Thank you for joining this week's discussion on The Last of Us. We'll pick it up next week. First day of the week next week for episode 3. I look forward to it. Are you taking attendance? I'll take attendance at the end of class.